From expired to desired, we're going to talk this morning about resurrecting a dead listing from the graveyard. What's normal these days? Stay tuned.
Good morning, Mr. Drury. How are we?
I'm good. Lisa, you're like the queen of the expired listing revival, like the property nurse. Gets people back on their feet.
Maybe the doctor.
Maybe the doctor.
I have to say, I actually really enjoy doing them. I love taking on a listing that's been on the market for too long with another agent. And I think this is an awesome topic, Billy, to talk about. I had a big, long meeting with a vendor yesterday, actually a client who's been on the market for 2 years with 3 other agents.
Yeah, wow, 2 years, long time, and probably spent a lot of money and probably very emotionally and, just energy zapped.
Yeah, so what I find is that the vendors are all the same. These vendors that have been on the market for just way too long with other agents, they're all coming in and they're confused, they're upset, and they are just financially, physically, emotionally, mentally burned, totally burned. And they just sort of, I mean, as you would, you'd be like, what is going on? Why is everything else selling and my property is not? But Billy, let's talk about like what is too long. Let's talk about what does that look like? Like when has your property been on the market for too long with, with an agent?
Yeah, well, average days on market for the Northern Beaches is 41 days currently from RP data. And that is skewed because there are, some suburbs on the Northern Beaches that naturally have longer days on market. And you've got to look at your property case by case. If you're selling an acreage or you're selling a property in a very high price point, naturally there's going to be less buyers there. So, apply a bit of common sense to this. But if you factor in half of the properties have a 4-week auction campaign, that takes you about to 28 days. Some properties sell very quickly. It brings that down a little bit, but 41 days is the median for the moment. But if you're still on the market after 4, 5, 6 months, we're going to sort of just have a look at 3 key pillars that we refer to as our sort of real estate Bible, and it's price, product, the home itself, or the promotion. One of those things is not working. And then we've got to go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I agree. And so, when we talk about those average days on market, I mean, look, if you've got a $15 million property, chances are it's not going to go flying out the door. What I find, and I'm probably a good one to be able to really just draw down on this, because my model is quite unique as an agent in that I'm selling everything from, $850,000 properties all the way up to $20+ million properties, and everything from acreage. I mean, if I have a look even at the moment at my listings, I've got beautiful luxury properties, I've got 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and I've got acreages as well. And you're quite right in what you're saying, Billy. Like, the 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, they would definitely fit into that average days on market category that you were talking about. Acreages definitely are going to have longer days on market, and as are the luxury properties as well. They're going to have average days on market. But the lovely client that I spoke with yesterday, who's been on the market for 2 years with a variety of agents, was saying, look, I don't hear from the agent. Nothing's happening. I've got no buyers coming through. I'm not getting any reporting. You go online onto the listing. There's no open times. It says contact agent. Nothing says don't contact an agent, like the 2 words on a listing, contact agent.
Yeah, true.
So, there's certain things that we look at. If I'm, it's a really bad word, but, if I'm cleaning up a listing off the back of, another agent property that's been on the market for too long, there's a whole lot of things I'll do. I'll literally pull that whole listing apart and I'll look at the 3 Ps that you were talking about. So is there open homes? And we really do need to bring back the open homes. We need to get energy back through the property. make it easy for the buyers. We need to look at the price. That's a huge one. Often vendors just want to know, what is my property worth? They just want the honest truth.
True.
Did the agent come in and they actually just, pitch too high, or their opinion of value was too high? Listen, we can get it wrong. Agents can get it wrong. We're not the market. But they want just good, honest guidance as to what their property is worth so they can make that educated decision, and then coming to them with a different marketing strategy. And that's the big one, because I've had clients in front of me that have spent tens of thousands of dollars on their marketing campaigns, and they're like, Lisa, we're not doing this again. And I'm like, that's okay. This isn't going to cost you anything. And here's what we're going to do. We're not just going to get you back onto the real estate portals. We're going to start hitting a whole lot of different areas, as in our database, our social media channels, which is some of the most interactive real estate social media channels in the country. We're gonna hit a whole lot of different pillars, and we're going to completely redo your photography, because often the marketing's really stale, Billy.
Yeah, it needs, a whole freshen up. And you're really engaging two different types of buyers. So we've got active buyers and passive buyers we're constantly in contact with. And a passive buyer is someone that says, look, happy to leave my name and number with you. If you've got anything similar to something I've previously inquired on, let me know. And they might not be buying, but actively looking on realestate.com day in, day out.
Yeah.
So when you reach out to them through this other method of communication, they respond really well to it. And many a times we've sold properties from buyers that we've actually had an established relationship with. It's just been time to deliver them the right property. And so they're not looking on realestate.com. They might need
100%.
but they're still ready to buy.
Absolutely. And look, I think database is actually such an overused word in our industry. I really do. Every agent goes in and pitches and says, oh, we've got buyers on the database. Well, so you should. You don't have a business. You're not much of an agent if you don't have buyers on your database. But it's, what are you actually doing with that database, and how are you mining through that database to find the needle in the haystack? Let's look at a couple of, I know we've got some case studies here. 82C Cabbage Tree Road in Bayview. If we can just bring that up for a second, Billy, that was a listing that came across us. It had been on the market with another agent for quite some time. I think we've just got the wrong property up there. It had been on the market with another agent for months and months and months. Beautiful property. The vendor had completely rebuilt it 3 years ago. You're hard pushed to find a house of this quality anywhere in Sydney. It was like the Xanadu of houses. And, they had no one. They had no one coming through the opens. The photos hadn't been redone. There was no price online. We literally just burned the whole campaign, and we rebuilt the whole thing again. And we started doing lots of open homes there, didn't we, Billy?
Yeah, different times as well. The agent hadn't done a Sunday open. We found that Sundays worked quite well in this area because people were driving from other parts of Sydney, out on a morning or an afternoon to come and have a look. So in the midst of a Saturday morning when there's kids sport running and other open homes, they just weren't getting to the property. So just, some small tweaks gave it a really, really good, uplift.
The one percenters. Now, the buyer that actually purchased that property, we had recently sold for, they were actually looking for something completely different out of area. They wanted a beautiful big house. They're a big family, but they were looking for something in a totally different area. And we said, you've got to come through and see this home. It's everything that you guys are looking for. And we took them through, and literally within 48 hours, we had sold them that property.
Yeah, and that's not the only one. So we've had one recently in DY, Tasman Street, another in Pitt Road, Curl. So if, on the beaches, and there's often still, the one thing that hasn't, been lost in all of this, Lisa, is the vendors, appetite to sell and get a good result. They're still, they really want to make something work.
Well, that's it. Look, someone that's been on the market for that long isn't there to waste time. They want to sell their property. You're not keeping your property clean and tidy and going through all of those processes because you don't want to sell. And as I said, often, it's really, it's the same conversation that I'm having over and over again with a lot of these clients that have been on the market for too long with other agents. They're not getting any communication. There's no one coming through. The photos didn't change. No price guide online. The good old contact agent. There's just so many things that are going on, and they just want to understand. They want honesty and they want communication. They don't want to go spending a whole lot of money. But it's the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I just want to quickly talk about Tasman Street, actually, one that I had there that had also been on the market for a really long time with another agent. Open home times were, late on a Saturday afternoon. No good for a property like that that's by the beach. And that they had actually styled this very, very old property with very fancy furniture. It was like Coco Republic furniture, and it just didn't fit with the property. So, the first thing I said to the vendors was, look, let's get all of that furniture out and just bring back your beautiful original furniture. And we need to just put some energy into this. It needs a really good guide online. We need to completely redo all of the marketing. Let's open the home multiple times a week. We were doing Sundays, Saturdays at prime time, midweeks, twilights. We were really putting a lot of energy into it. And we ended up selling that property that had been on the market for about 5 or 6 months. We sold it within the first week.
Yeah, it was amazing. And for a really good price as well, for an offer.
Phenomenal price.
Yeah, amazing. So I think if you're a vendor out there and you do need help, there is a solution there for you. It doesn't cost any marketing money, and it'll be a very different experience to what you've had. And the only reason it works for our team is because we group together and have 12 agents working in the background. So the level of output work is just unbelievable. It's unmatched. If you're 12 agents versus one, just imagine how many phone calls can physically be made in a day. That's the reason it works behind the scenes. That's what you can't see on realestate.com.
That's right. And also, look, we've got so many systems in place as to how we reach out to our database as well. It's for me, I've got a designated team that just sits there all day, every day, just calling through that database. The email blast, that's industry standard, but redoing those photos, giving the market a price, understanding where that price guide sits, getting out to our social media, it's massive. Getting, that social media presence there. And I mean, listen, I've sold many a property just off social media alone. But I think the important thing is anyone that's watching this that's going, that's me. You should definitely still, even if you're 4 or 5 months down the line, you should be hearing from your agent regularly. The photos should at the very least should be rotated around. Make it easy for the buyers, give them pricing, get some open homes happening. As I said, pushing lots of energy through to that property, and making sure that your agent is actually responding to buyers. I'm often saying the worst thing you want to have is putting a great buyer in front of a not so great agent. So, but we're here to take away the pain, won't cost you any money in marketing, and feel free to reach out to us if we can help you guys.
Great show. There you go.
That's it. All right, ready for a Tuesday.
Yeah. See you later.
See ya.